China's President Xi Jinping has been holding talks with Russian leader Vladimir Putin in Beijing this morning. You're looking at fresh footage. Putin is hailing what he is calling unprecedented ties between the two countries. Their meeting comes as leaders from around the world gather in the Chinese capital ahead of a massive military parade tomorrow, marking 80 years since the end of the Second World War. CBS News foreign correspondent Coren is following all of these developments for us from Beijing.
Behind me on Chong'an Avenue, China will host its biggest ever military parade to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. Rehearsals have been going on here in Beijing for weeks. The city is under tight security, and very shortly we will have to vacate the CBS office as all buildings along the parade route will be locked down. For Chinese leader Xi Jinping, this will be a moment of glory. As Commander-in-Chief of the world's largest armed forces, he will watch over as tens of thousands of troops march towards Tiananmen Square, showcasing the country's newest military hardware. Among the guests attending, Russia's President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. It will be the first time Kim will appear together with Xi and Putin in what is seen as a direct challenge to the US-led world order. Well, that message was also conveyed over the weekend at the Regional Security Summit in Tianjin, northern China, where Xi hosted more than 20 world leaders, including Putin and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. On Monday, Xi, Putin and Modi were shown together smiling and laughing, a deliberate public display of warmth and camaraderie. Well, just last week, the United States imposed 50% tariffs on India for buying Russian oil. At this week's events, Xi is not just asserting China as a stable and reliable partner, it is also showing off the country's alliances and its might and power, a message intended solely for the US. Back to you.
All right, Anna, thank you for that. And for more context, let's jump to London now with CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio, who you all should know is our former China correspondent based in Beijing for a while. Good morning, Ramy. We heard Anna there mention China showing off its alliances. So what should we all make of this as we see a massive counterbalance to the power of the US?
Absolutely. It looks like there is a shift or an attempted shift from the West to the East, Errol. And we are looking at the optics right now of what appear, at least, to be deepening Sino-Russian ties. And then if you expand that out, the optics of closer ties among authoritarian, or maybe we could say strongman regimes from Asia, that includes North Korea and to some degree India, through to Central Asian countries vis-a-vis the Shanghai Cooperative Organization council meeting that happened over the weekend, and then onwards to Iran, the president there as well. But at the core of this, the heart of this, is Beijing and Moscow. The leaders of both countries use the word friend to describe each other, but I got to remind that these countries in the Cold War of the 1960s were in fact bitter enemies. But on Monday, yesterday, Russian President Putin called Chinese President Xi Jinping a dear friend, and Xi called Putin an old friend. And then Putin said that bilateral ties are now unprecedentedly high. Whether they are or not, that is another question, because I also have to remind that ties between Beijing and Moscow have always been, I want to say, more functional, or because one needed the other, and less, should we say, cultural or maybe even racial or ethnic, unlike, say, some might try to draw parallels with the U.S. and Western Europe. It's often been more in the style of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. In this case, their shared enemy is Washington.
And Ramy, let's press that topic a bit more. You've got the words, the smiles and the handshakes, but what deliverables have come out of these meetings or may come out?
Sure. Something that both Russia and China need, money and energy. Energy by way of Russian energy in the form of natural gas that could or has been agreed to flow to China. This is in both new infrastructure as well as more gas itself. Those were agreed to earlier today. That's coming from the head of Russia's state-owned Gazprom, to build a new gas pipeline from northwest Siberia that would then transit through the country of Mongolia and its capital of Ulaanbaatar, and then end someplace in China. This is called the Power of Siberia 2, PS2. It would stretch more than 1,500 miles. It would be one of the biggest gas pipelines in the world in terms of capacity. This comes as Europe, as we know, has slashed its imports of Russian gas since 2021 because of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. They used to import roughly half of their gas needs. Now that's down to less than 20%. So these new Chinese purchases, that could help offset at least some of the losses and then give Russia a badly needed infusion of funds. Aside from that, we should keep an eye on what happens with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. We saw his train arrive in Beijing in the last few hours, his famed armored train there. The last time he was in Beijing was 6 years ago. The questions that are on my mind, Errol, will he commit more troops to Russia's invasion of Ukraine? Will Beijing or Moscow pledge more support for Pyongyang in terms of its military or maybe even its aspiration to be a nuclear state?
Yeah, a lot happening in that part of the world. Ramy is across it all. Thank you, Ramy.